Albert Schultz, the theater director accused of sexual harassment, is now officially resigned. This comes after 4 women came forward accusing him of sexual misconduct. Yesterday, it was revealed the women had filed civil lawsuits against Schultz and the Soulpepper Theater Company. Today, they faced the cameras and spoke out about their experiences. The CBC's Ali Chasson has the latest.
Soulpepper, as it is not a safe environment. It's certainly not for an actor whose desire and training leads them to be open and vulnerable.
With the support of 4 other Soulpepper artists standing behind them, Schultz's accusers choked back tears, saying they felt like there was nowhere to turn.
My time at Soulpepper, I never once saw a policy on sexual harassment.
Patricia Fagan and Kristen Booth first broke their silence to CBC News. Fagan calls Schultz a serial sexual predator.
He ran up behind me and I turned around and he showed me his penis. And I just kind of flinched.
Booth said she would try to dodge his advances, including, she says, unwanted kissing.
It would be this, what's wrong? Like, why are, is there something going on? Is there something wrong? Like, aren't we friends? But I'm your friend. Like, I'm Albert. Like, I'm your mentor. I'm your director.
They started working under Schultz's direction 20 years ago. This coming to a head now has sent shockwaves through Toronto's theater scene.
I've been there for 6 years. I have considered Albert a mentor, and I considered him a professional colleague and a personal friend.
Current Soulpepper artists Courtney Lancaster and Leslie McBay are wrestling with feelings of complicity.
I can speak to seeing what I would consider inappropriate behavior. Lots of unnecessary touching, shoulder rubs, comments about what women were wearing.
They echo the power dynamic described by one of the accuser's attorneys today.
There was fear to make a complaint. If you made a complaint to him, you just wouldn't get cast again.
For me, it's fear does not breed creativity. It's in fact the opposite.
Right. Nina Lee Aquino is the artistic director of Toronto's Factory Theatre. She sees this as an opportunity for theatre companies to make explicit what is not appropriate in an industry where the relationship between director and performer is close and personal.
There's a wave of change happening, and as it should be. So I'm glad that it's happening now, and again, now's the time to walk the walk.
The 4 supporters who are current artists with the Soulpepper Company said they would not work as long as Schultz is still working for them. So we'll have to wait and see what happens now that he has officially removed himself. Albert Schultz's name has been wiped from the Soulpepper website entirely, and he was set to star in and produce a play in the coming days. We'll have to see how that show goes on. Carol.
All right. Ali, thank you. The CBC's Ali Chasson, Toronto. Here to talk with us more about the case is Tatha Swann. You saw her in Ali's piece. She is a managing partner at Levitt LLP and co-counsel for the women suing Albert Schultz. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Tatha, first of all, who is named in this lawsuit?
Soulpepper, theater company, and Albert Schultz.
Okay, we get why Albert Schultz would be named. Why is the company named?
The company is named because the allegations involving sexual misconduct by Albert Schultz took place in the workplace, and it was Soulpepper's workplace. And as an employer, Soulpepper had a duty to provide its workers, including these actresses, with a safe working environment. We're saying that they did not by condoning Albert's conduct.
Okay, what does that mean, that they condoned his conduct?
It means that they, for example, didn't establish correct policies, didn't enforce policies based on complaints brought forward, didn't act to discipline Albert or to take any action to protect actresses in their position from enduring similar conduct. To the extent that anyone from management specifically knew, apart from Albert himself,
did anyone
any
else
examples.
know? Or did people make complaints?
We I can't speak to that other than to say that we know of one complaint that was made and that Albert explained it as a joke, and that was accepted by the board, and we understand there was no discipline.
Okay, so if nobody made a complaint, how can the company be responsible?
So I just said there was a complaint, for example.
Oh, right. Okay,
right?
so just one. Okay,
yes.
One complaint, but.
And I think that shows the power of one complaint and how a company responds to it. In a workplace where someone makes a complaint and everyone watches and sees that nothing is done about it, it sends a really clear message to other employees that they're probably not going to be believed. It has the power to really silence any further complaints.
I see. Okay. In its statement, the board said that it had recently commissioned and received a report from an independent workplace policy expert which affirms the appropriateness of Soulpepper's standards and processes. How do you explain that?
Companies, on occasion, have third parties review their policies, make sure they say everything they need to do. They need to say. We understand that this was done at least in 2016 for Soulpepper. But a lot of the allegations that our clients have brought forward took place before that, and I can't speak to the review. I can speak to the policy, and one of the problematic aspects of the policy, which I've looked at, is that it has a complaint process that requires a written complaint to an executive director of Soulpepper, which position was held by Albert's wife. So that is a really that is not really an appropriate complaint process. You can't really expect an actress to make a complaint to their abuser's wife and expect a biased investigation or outcome. Certainly, there would be fear of reprisal.
Okay. What are you suing for exactly?
My clients are suing for monetary damages.
How much?
It's in the millions.
How many millions?
The exact amounts are in the claim, but it's over $1 million.
Okay.
Yes.
Per person?
In total, it's, I believe, over $3 million. Yes.
Okay. And what else do they want?
So unfortunately, all they can claim in the civil claims is monetary damages. But what they want as a broader result of bringing the claims and generating discussion is for Soulpepper to ensure that this doesn't happen to other actresses in the workplace. So, for example, by removing Albert from any role at Soulpepper, and not only reviewing their policies, but making sure that actresses still aren't being abused. You can have a policy. It doesn't mean people trust the policy. It doesn't mean they trust management. It doesn't mean they'll follow the policy and bring complaints. So sometimes you see third-party consultants hired to come in and do confidential interviews with workers where they feel more comfortable to say, this is actually an ongoing problem. Yes, there's a harassment policy, but here's why I don't feel comfortable making complaints.
Okay. And how did you arrive at the $3 million mark? What does that account for?
That is based on what courts award based on various kinds of losses. So that can cover lost wages, it can cover lost contracts that may be cut short, lost opportunities, having to leave the industry because they didn't feel safe, particularly working at Soulpepper. Mental distress, all kinds of different losses, ranging from monetary losses to what courts call non-pecuniary, so sort of mental distress type of loss of enjoyment of life.
Right. And what difference does it make that Albert Schultz is now permanently resigned?
It doesn't make any difference to the claims themselves because the claims are claiming damages for past conduct. So I think this is the right choice for Soulpepper to make, but I also think it's the only realistic decision that they could make when faced with these kinds of claims, especially the level of support that they've received and the fact that actors have resigned pending removal of Albert from any role at Soulpepper.
Why did you choose to go, Tatha, the route of civil suit as opposed to a criminal case?
Our clients wanted more control over the process. I can't talk about discussions that were had with the clients. That's all privileged information between clients and lawyers. But I can tell you what some of the pros and cons are and what the differences in the two processes are.
Sure.
So in a criminal process, if you make a complaint to police, the police are in charge of investigating it. They do all the evidence gathering. They do not act for you. They hand the information to the Crown prosecutor, who can choose to prosecute or not based on their evaluation of the evidence. The Crown does not represent the victims. They represent the state and prosecute the accused. So the process is taken right out of the hands of the victims. If you contrast that with the civil claims, it's the clients can hire their own lawyer, so they have someone who is representing only them and will follow only their instructions. They get to write their own narrative. They get to write exactly what the claim says. They don't have to decide on, or they don't have to ask for charges from the Crown. They have much more extensive witness preparation, for example, because they have dedicated counsel to prepare them, to teach them in, what's the difference between one word or another, to help them articulate the message that they want to get across in their case. And also, the focus in civil claims, of course, is compensation for the claimants. In a civil or in a criminal action, the focus is on the accused. It's on proving guilt and on sentencing. It's not really focused on compensating the victims.
Now, was there a criminal, and I understand, you can tell me if this is part of the lawyer-client privilege, but was there any reflection on other high-profile sexual harassment claims in this country that turned them off from criminal prosecution?
I can't say what specifically would turn them off. I think that we all saw what happened in the Giangomeshi case in terms of what happened with the victims. They didn't have dedicated lawyers to prepare them. They had to either not be prepared at all, go with a crown counsel who isn't representing them. They're basically
some did
just
hire their
evaluating
own.
their case.
As I understand it, Tatha, some did hire their own counsel.
Yes, and they certainly could do that, and it sounds like and they all had they had different counsel, but certainly there's an aspect to preparation and resources. And absolutely control over preparing the case. They wouldn't have had control over how the prosecutors prepared their case, only what they said on the stand.
Right. How long will this take to wind through the courts?
It can take a year, 2 years, 3 years. There are a number of steps. It depends.
And how much support have the women had? I wonder if will they be punished in the industry for coming forward? Will they be supported? What's the indication so far?
They have been receiving so many emails, so many calls, so many words of support. We haven't heard of a single naysayer, actually. It has just been a flood of warmth from people in the industry saying, I believe you, I've seen this kind of thing happen, I'm behind you, and thank you for generating this discussion. It seems almost that people were waiting for this discussion and are happy to join it. So I think that has been just so appreciated by the women. They feel very, very supported, to use your word. Yeah.
Tatha Swann, co-counsel for the women suing Albert Schultz. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Coming up, we'll continue to follow the winter storm battering the East Coast, expecting to dump as much as 20 centimeters of snow on PEI. And you can see the snow coming down there now. Someone has to clear it all away. I'll speak with a snowplow dispatcher after the break.